that time.
Oh, yeah. What are you going to wear for the game
A
today?
home opener.
Heated socks?
I always go dressed as a clown in honor of Andy the Clown, who I miss terribly.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Still raw for you.
First place, Chicago White Sox.
Oh.
Something the Cubs can't say.
No, the Cubs aren't doing so well right now.
First place, Chicago White Sox open today against the Tigers.
Rawr, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a balmy 38 degrees. It may snow. It may rain. But
Probably
that
get
doesn't matter.
canceled like it did last year.
Do you think so? I mean, it's not a heavy snowfall. It's a
Oh,
quick
sure. If
passing
it's a
shower.
light snow.
I mean, it won't mess up with pitching or
Yeah.
catching.
No.
or
No, of
anything.
course not.
No, what could go wrong?
So I'm a bit of a, as I said before, kind of a candy ass when it comes to weather for opening day, and that distinguishes me from Larry Molloy and his mom, who are planning on attending today their 50th straight opening day at Comiskey. I mean, I know it's the G spot now, but I still call it
guaranteed
Comiskey.
rate.
Yeah.
G spot.
And joining us is the aforesaid Larry Molloy. Larry, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. It's an honor to be on with the Wizard of Wheaton.
And so right now we've got both Yolmer Sanchez and Matt Davidson tracking for 130 home runs each this year. So it looks to be a good year for the White Sox starting today with the home opener.
Well, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun team to watch. I mean, Sanchez is the greatest Yolmer in baseball history.
There's no question. In the pantheon of Yolmers in MLB history, Yolmer Sanchez is right up there. He's got a good point. As a baseball fan, that's Larry. You can tell he knows the game.
Exactly. So, Larry, how did this tradition start? I mean, 50 years, a lot of marriages don't even last that long, but this is a pretty solid bond. So were you one? Were you 1 month old? How old were you when you went to your first White Sox game?
I was in 7th grade, and my mother grew up in St. Louis, and she was a Browns fan. And when the Browns moved to Baltimore, by then she had married my father, moved to the South Side, and she loved baseball. By then we moved out to Downers Grove, and she had suggested that I call in sick to school and go to the opener. And of course, as a 7th grader, that had no interest for me at all.
Right.
But back in those days, calling up the nuns and faking an illness was not something that was normally done. But she did that, and I promised her that if she did that, when I got big, I would take her to every opening day. So for 7 years, while I was in school, she took me opening day, and since then I've been taking her. Unfortunately, this year at 94, we had a long discussion last night, and she's probably not going to make it today.
No.
Oh, what a fair weather fan.
Gosh. What did you get? Do you have Dan Proft itis? No. Okay, isn't there anything?
I'm also 94.
Can you drive her by the stadium or something?
What about like a Pope Mobile thing, or what about call Reinsdorf and let her go up to the Bard's room and watch from there?
Well, what I promised her was, we'll find a nice weekday July game that's not crowded, and I'll park in the B lot where it's a short walk to the ballpark, and
the streak can't be over, Larry. No.
Yeah.
Well, you do what you can, and it's just last year it almost wasted her, and then of course the game got canceled.
Right, I was there for that one. Yeah.
So it was watching the little snow pellets bounce off the tarp was pretty interesting.
Well,
I guess health comes first. Fine.
Yeah.
Be that way.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me just because now I'm sorry. I thought you were baseball purists, you and your mom. Now I'm starting to question that. Last year, when the opening day game got canceled, I was there too. Did you go to the remake so that you still had that opening day experience from the game that you missed?
I did. She did not.
Oh, boy.
Like I said, it was almost all done by then.
I think this interview's over.
I can't tell you how disappointed I am in your mom. I mean, I just. What about? Didn't Sister Jean inspire her? Now, granted, that was indoors. They play basketball, so that's an advantage.
Well, and she's kind of at the point in her life that if she had followed Loyola carefully, she probably wouldn't remember it by now.
Oh.
So
this keeps getting better. So what home are you putting her in, Larry?
Tough crowd at home. Yeah.
Well,
so Larry,
it's the advance of time. I told my kids, they don't have to drag me to the ballpark if I'm not going to remember.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's fair. A way to pay it forward.
This is spectacular.
Hey, so what was your favorite memory, while you still have these memories?
faculties.
Yeah, your favorite memory at Comiskey with your mom. Did you guys ever meet like Bill Vack or even Mike Vack, or what's a great experience that you remember?
Ron
No,
Kittle.
but in those days, when we first started doing it, well, a couple years into the deal, of course, we weren't buying lower deck box seats or anything. So there were any number of times that we were in the bleachers with Harry Carey and with Nancy Faust, the organist.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that. So that was always cool. And we did manage, in 1970, we lost like 106 ball games. I think I went to 26 games that year, about half of them with my mom. And, you could drop the buck for the bleacher seat, and by the time you're at the third inning, you're over the third base dugout talking to everybody. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
So you like the accessibility over the years to the team?
Oh, yeah. In those days, when they get, 600-700 people in the ballpark,
Yeah.
wasn't so much vendors walking around. It was more like waiters,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You could relieve Harold Baines, play a little right field for half an inning back in that day. So all right. So tell me who your favorite White Soxer of all time is, and who your mom's is.
Well, mine was, as a kid growing up, Pete Ward. He was a third baseman, came up in '63, hit 23 homers as a rookie, and just give you an idea of the ballpark effect. I think 8 of those were at Comiskey. The rest were on the road, because that old ballpark was huge.
Yeah.
And he got in a car accident, blew out his back, and that's when I started figuring out that baseball players didn't really last that long in the great scheme of things.
Yeah.
My mom's favorite player was a guy by the name of Gale Hopkins, and Gale was a reserve everything. And one time we were at the ballpark, and we were down by a bit, and she had said that we were going to get a home run in the 6th inning. Well, Hopkins comes up and hits a home run in the 6th inning.
Wow.
And
from then on.
Well, it was kind of funny because, I asked her, okay, what's going to happen next? And all the people around kind of leaned forward and listened.
Like she's E.F. Hutton. Yeah, right.
So
exactly.
with the invention of all these video games and Fortnite, I don't know how old your kids are, but are they still interested in baseball? Do they still follow your passion for the White Sox?
I have 3 boys. One of them's at Northern. He can't make it in. Mm-hmm. My boy up at Marquette is coming in, and I phoned my 7th grader as absent today at school.
Wow.
so yeah, they're big time Sox fans.
How many of your boys are named Avasale, and how many are named Yolmer?
It's funny you say that, because when we were pregnant with the third, we didn't expect 3 boys, I guess, and we were kind of out of boys' names, and we were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Well, this was 2005.
Oh, and sure, Paul Konerko Molloy.
He was born in November.
Okay.
And during the first game of the World Series, I turned to my own wife and I said, okay, how about this? If the Sox win the World Series, we'll pick a couple Sox players and name them after that. She said, yeah, if they win the World Series. And I said, how does Juan Tadahito sound to you? She goes, not really.
Come here, little Juan Tadahito. Come here, little.
You had,
so cute.
Although, I mean, how do you, if it's Scott, if it's like Scott, after Prasednik, nobody knows it's after Prasednik. You have to have you have to pick.
So what's his name?
You'd have to pick Scott Prasednik Molloy.
We had it down to Burley and Creedy, Mark Joseph, or Jenks and Konerko, Robert Paul. Uh-huh. And we decided on Robert Paul. It was funny because she kind of favored Mark, and we were still kind of going back and forth about it. And she said, "Well, when he's born, I'll know." So
Robert.
We had the child. I showed him to her, and she goes, "Well, that's not Mark." So he became Robert Paul. But I didn't, as much as I like Bobby Jenks, I don't really like the nickname Bobby, so we call him Robbie.
So Robert Paul Molloy is named after Bobby Jenks and Paul Konerko. Huh.
I would have named him Burley Molloy.
Yeah, that's kind of a unique name. Yeah.
Should have consulted me.
But
I kind of had a thing for this.
Where were you?
Right.
Well, I was covering the White Sox.
I still can't believe.
No, I had just given birth.
I can't believe your mom, and also you, like sort of obscure White Sox players. Not a Nellie Fox, not a Louis Aparicio.
When you go to a lot of games and things like that, I mean, if you talk about who's the best right-handed hitter you ever saw, boy, it'd be Frank, and all that other stuff. And I certainly appreciated all the Sox had a ton of stars. But when you go on an everyday basis, you kind of root for the other underdog. Like my kids are rabid Tyler Saladino fans.
Yeah,
and
sure.
And then when Delmonico came out of nowhere, they kind of latched onto him. You hear all about the big stars and Moncada and those guys that are coming up that are going to be so great, blah 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 blah, and that's great. I mean, I root for them absolutely, but I don't know. I always look for the more relatable types.
What about a Steve Lyons?
Psycho?
Yeah, Psycho, exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I was in the stand saying, "Let Psycho pitch." I mean, Steve Lyons is great.
Exactly. the 80th Juice Cruz and Lamar Hoyt, Britt Burns, Richard Dotson, not to be confused with Gary. Yeah, I mean, all of those. There's so many. That's it. It's just interesting. It's interesting, but that's what's fun about White Sox is, great history, unlike the Cubs.
Oh,
that have no history or stars stars of yesteryear to talk about.
I was just wondering what's going on with Joe Maddon's hair.
See, that's exactly that's a thing a Cubs fan would say.
Exactly.
They care about the manager's hair.
Yeah, I mean it changed colors, and I don't know what's going on. I think he's getting the plugs.
It's mood hair.
Mood hair.
Oh, yeah, like a mood ring. Yeah.
I like that. Now, if you have a fourth kid, maybe Ozzie Molloy. What do you think? Speaking of 2005.
I think the odds of me and my ex having a fourth are pretty remote. So I'm not too worried about that.
Fair
but I'll tell you what, if we do, Ozzy, you got it.
All right, so so you're still going to the game today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, with his son from Marquette. So at least there's some
right
family bonding going on.
All right, so it still will be a 50th anniversary of the Molloys going to the White Sox opener, and I guess that's good enough, even though Mom kind of punked out.
I think son decided that Mom's staying home in her best interest.
Well, I mean, when I moved her in here after she couldn't live on her own anymore, it was just kind of, we've had these discussions from time to time, and sometimes they get a little repetitive, and then 2 months later she said, "Why did you do this?" And so I'll pay for it. Don't worry.
That's nice. So you took your mom in? She lives with you now?
Yeah.
Aw. I hope Peyton and Eli do that for me, but I doubt
chance.
My local priest was giving me a lot of, "Oh boy, there's a special place in heaven for you." And I said, "Stop it, Father. That's not why I'm doing it."
Why are you doing
it? And he goes, "Well, why are you doing it?" And I said, "Well, I'm modeling for my kids."
Yeah, exactly. Smart, exactly. Larry Molloy, the Molloy family, 50 years of going to White Sox openers. Larry, thanks so much for joining us. It was fun. Appreciate it.
All right, enjoyed it. Take care.
Enjoy the game.
Yeah, and he joined us on our turnkey Don't Forget Mama.pro answer line.